Great defeaters, new and old, welcome to another bumper episode of The Breakdown with your host, BaseDaKID, Tony, the Pugilist Boy. We are the children of the game. Tony, how was your weekend?
Weekend was exciting, my brother. Exciting. Now, I know it was a rather dismal weekend for many because of a certain lady popping her clogs and leaving this mortal coil. But I managed to make the best of the extra day. There was some good sport from overseas, although most of the action in the UK was curtailed. But there was some good action. Actually, no, we got some football. And my team, of course, won, and we are top of the league. But there were some other sports that I got into and met up with a few friends, and yeah, it was a good weekend overall. How about yourself, my friend?
It was a bit of an anticlimactic weekend, I suppose. There was a lot of hype going on for the big main event in Las Vegas. It was more of a chess game than what we predicted it would be. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, my team didn't get to play this week, so gonna have to find some time to run that game back. Some decent football and some other events, which I know you won't want me to talk about, so I won't. But yeah, all good otherwise. I can't really complain. So before we get into everything, let me just say, all right, for the chat, the reason we were late is because we were trying to populate the content file for just a few additional bits and pieces for you guys. So we do apologize. We're not normally late, but there's that. Plus, I had to eat. I went on a 2-hour walk, so I needed some sustenance. Okay, so as always, Mulla number one in the chat. Big up Mulla, Uncle Jonah, Mr. A. Dan the man, of course, the hardest working man on Twitter. And let's see who else we got. James Burrell. That definitely wasn't occurring, but thank you for joining us. And much salute to you as well. And hopefully, whenever other people populate the chat, I will be giving you a shout out also.
Excellent. So we are gonna start with in chronological order. We start off on Thursday night, right?
No, it was Friday.
It was Friday.
Yeah.
Was it Friday? Okay. Yeah. It's so long ago now. I can't remember what night it was, but we started the weekend on Channel 5.
Before we carry on, salute to Jam Down every time. You're never late. You're always on time for us, big man.
Big up yourself. So yeah, we're gonna start off.
Hold on, wait. Beck up. All right, Beck.
Welcome in, Beck. We're gonna start off the show with a quick review of Lyndon Arthur on Channel 5 Friday night. I didn't get to see.
Denzel Bentley was Friday night.
What was Lyndon Arthur? Saturday night.
Yeah, on Channel 5.
All right. So we're gonna start off with Denzel Bentley then.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
you can give your assessment on this one.
Okay, no problem. So, British middleweight title between Denzel Bentley, Mark Morrison. This was to me a very exciting fight. Mark Morrison came out with bad intentions. He came out in the first round and he put the kitchen sink on Denzel Bentley. He laid into Denzel with some really beautiful hooks into the body and hooks to the head. And then he finished the round off very strong. You could see that Denzel was physically shook by what he'd just gone through in that first round. And then the second round, Denzel, after getting his instruction and resetting, he was like, okay, if this is what we're about, let's get into it. And he started to get into a tear-up with Mark Morrison. And it was just a beautiful thing. It was like poetry in motion watching these two guys. For the guys that like the blood and the sweat in the ring and, like that tear-up action, round 2 was a beautiful thing. It was a lovely round where both guys went in. They threw hard shots. And by the end of the round, Denzel Bentley had told Mark Morrison, "You ain't getting this your own way." And the fight then began to turn. Denzel Bentley, round 3, begins to ascend into dominant protagonist in the ring. He's starting to break up Mark Morrison, and it's not long before we start seeing facial damage because of Morrison's light skin. We see a lot of red going around the rib cage, and it's just like, yeah, Denzel's in the mood, and he just basically breaks down Morrison until he eventually stops him. And it's a great win for Denzel. I think it launches him into bigger spaces. I know Denzel was on Monday Night Smoke last night with KG and Travis. It was great to hear from him and to hear that he felt he performed well enough to establish himself as somebody to take note of. Of course, there was talk about the rematch between him and Matty Cash, which would, of course, be a great fight at this time. But yeah, I thought this was a wonderfully exciting fight. Take my hat off. Well done, Denzel Bentley.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo your sentiments to a degree. I mean, I feel like he started very sloppily, or at least I think maybe without the necessary respect for Marcus Morrison. The first round to me was definitely a Marcus Morrison round, and not even due to the heavy punches that he was throwing. It was all about the fact he was offsetting all of Denzel's primary movement with his jab, which seemed to be slightly longer in reach than what Denzel had. But after taking sort of the heavy shot which stunned him in the I'm not sure, it was around about the first minute, he went kind of into survival mode. He's got good up and down defensive movement, Denzel. He manages to get that torso angle in the moving away to be able to keep himself protected, along with all the guard. He could employ a cross guard. I think that would actually benefit him as well for the type of style that he tends to fight with. But he quickly said, okay, match fire with fire. Morrison is very much he's a tuck up type person. He'll just stand behind the guard and basically take as many punches on the gloves as he can. But there's very little head movement. There's not a lot of elusiveness. There's not a lot of like textbook defense other than just tucking up, and that always tends to be his problem. Even though he can take a lot of decent shots, he can block a lot of shots. He's still absorbing those shots. And that's where he always ends up coming up unstuck, because he always then falls off balance to a point where he's now got to reset before he can then go and throw back. But because Denzel was also rushing some of his work as well, and basically was trying to flurry to catch those hard, sort of catch him unawares and in between, and those hard shots, he was also then getting countered with a lot of the time with left hook that were thrown from pretty far back. So had Denzel been more alert, most of those probably wouldn't even have caught him. But he showed that he's got a good enough chin. Like, he can take a shot. Obviously, he can get hurt, as we've seen before, but he can take a shot. He can ride one. He can ride out a storm. Marcus Morrison did the same thing throughout all the rounds. It was more for him. Even though his face was like busted up badly, it was the body shots that were stopping him, because the headshots, he was eating those pretty much all day. But he got hit to the body in the second round, which is kind of what turned the tide. And then he got hit to the body badly in the fourth, which is what made him back off and have to, take a sustained beating on the ropes to make the towel come in and the ref jump in as well, even though he was not happy about the stoppage. But it was a great performance overall by both guys, just in terms of like grit and heart. But when it comes to their skill sets, they're going to have to tighten up and show a lot more skills moving up the ranks from the levels they're currently fighting at. But it was very highly entertaining, and I only saw that from earlier on today, actually, so it's still fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm. So that was quite a night. I didn't get to see the full card. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we talk about Brian Moreno versus Frank Arnold on that card?
I've only seen the last 10 seconds of that fight. I didn't see anything else from it, but I heard that he got hurt from the first round.
Yeah, so he got dropped in the first round, and then literally it was like the one-way show. Brian Moreno taking on a 9-0 Frank Arnold. The underdog Moreno absolutely scorched Frank Arnold. I mean, if you haven't seen it, guys, whew, you know, I ain't got the video, but you need to see it. I mean, the guy was out cold. They could have, like, you know, counted to 300. He would have still been out. You know, it was just a devastating knockout, overhand right. After he, as I said, after he had already put Frank Arnold down in an earlier round. But it was superb. Big up to SWS Boxing, welcome in the house,
and RZ as well.
And RZ, big up yourself too.
Hold on, put his chat up real quick. So, hello guys, hope you're good. Good night of boxing on Friday. I'm 15 in the last year of school, and as a side thing, I want to start a boxing media YouTube channel while studying. Could I get you on any channel? I'm assuming he's okay. Well, I will tell you from now, if you follow either myself or Tony on Insta or Twitter, or if anything, we'll send you a link later on today, and you can get on. You can go in the back room. You can give us your details. I'll be happy to come on your channel at any point. I'm sure Tony will as well, and we can sort of get you connected with some of the right people to get you started on your way. But yeah, all right. So what we're moving on to next?
Okay, so now we're gonna move from the Friday night card on Denzel Bentley on BT Sport. We move across to the Channel 5 card on Saturday, which was headlined by Lyndon Arthur. Also featured, was Nathan Gorman on that card? Because I see his name.
I didn't watch the whole card. I only saw the.
Okay, so Nathan Gorman was on the card.
I don't think he was on the televised part.
Okay, maybe not. So, but anyway, the main story was, of course, Lyndon Arthur. This was his first fight since his defeat to Anthony Yard, and it is the small amount of footage that I managed to pick up. So it looks like a nice uppercut to drop his opponent. Do you know how that finished?
Yeah, that was in the. So that uppercut occurred in the third round. He went down, and he's survived another 3 rounds, and then eventually he got taken out. He got caught with another uppercut in the 6th round, and he backed up against the ropes, wobbled back, and then the ref jumped in because he was sort of taking a pepper in at that particular point. So that's how the fight itself ended.
So that's in round 6 against Walter Gabriel Sequeira.
Or Shakiera, as they called him on Channel 5. I don't know how they got that pronunciation. But yeah, so that was the first one. So what you saw there was in the 3rd round, and then it ended in the 6th.
Cool. Excellent. Okay. So nothing more to talk about on that card. We now move our attention across the Atlantic.
Just to say that Lyndon was very he looked very, I'm gonna say he was quite poor in that fight, if I'm honest. Yeah, I don't think he obviously didn't respect his opponent, which is fine, but he pretty much had the majority of it his own way, and I guess the guy didn't hurt him as much, but he got caught a lot had his hands down quite a bit. He wasn't sticking to the jab. He wasn't even. He was power punching with the guy for no reason, to be honest. Now, some people say that he's not. Some people say that he's all wrong for someone like Dan Aziz, but from what I saw in that fight and the way that Dan fights and stays on you, like Lyndon would be in problem. So he's got to get back to his boxing, because if you actually watch that fight, it wasn't a really poor. It wasn't a good performance at all.
Okay, so Jam Down says y'all ain't got no love for Big Frank for producing a decent domestic fight card. Fish Eyes isn't usually worthy of any credit, but he did his thing on Friday. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. You know, what we're supposed to do, just blow Trump, you know, wind up a man's cell for doing that basic of functions that he's supposed to do. You know, he has a roster of fighters. He's supposed to get them fights. He's supposed to maximize their money. He's supposed to get them into situations where they can win titles. That's his job. You know, he's paid handsomely, you know. But yeah, respect for Frank for doing that. Any comment on that?
I haven't seen the card, to be honest. I only saw the Ellis Zorro and Dex Bellman fight, and then I saw the Bentley and Morrison fight. I saw the knockout of what was his name, Ford.
Okay.
I saw that, but I haven't seen anything else of that card. I was like, the TV was on other stuff that night.
Okay. I mean, the Ellis Zorro.
That was a good fight. I'll give him that.
That was a good fight, yeah, because that was close right until the end. You know, Spellman definitely earned his money for that night. You know, you can see by the faces of the two fighters, you know, they really went to town on each other. A very entertaining fight. But yeah, well done to Ellis Zorro, who continues to be undefeated in his career so far. You know, this was a tough test for him. You know, we're now going to say, well, where does he go next? That's probably the thought about Ellis Zorro, because he's now, you know, he's won his share of some good fights of late.
Therefore.
So, without further delay, let's move on. So we're going to go across the water to the big fight of the weekend, which was Canelo against Triple G. I have 2.5 minutes, nearly 3 minutes worth of action here for you. So, are you ready to go?
You start. This is your show.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
All right, let's get in amongst it. Okay, the trilogy fight. We talked about this last week, and you know I said that this was going to break down to work rate. I didn't see any stoppages taking place, and I was correct in that assumption. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, but Canelo could win by late stoppage." Never saw any way that he was gonna hurt Triple G sufficiently, and that's exactly what happened. You know, he got some good shots in, but Triple G worked, you know, well, did what he had to do. Didn't really get hurt. In fact, when you look at their two faces at the end of the fight, it actually looks more significant on the face of Canelo, that he's got, you know, quite large marks around the top of his eyes, than to Gennady Golovkin. But it was an entertaining fight, albeit at a very slow pace. You know, the years have finally caught up with Triple G. His work rate really didn't start until about late round 8 and then through 9, 10, and 11, by which time really the fight was already over. You know, he would have needed a knockout. Significantly, at the end of this reel of video and pictures, you're going to see some pictures of the scorecards, because they have to be talked about. Those scorecards were ridiculous, and this is unusual, because usually you expect Canelo in his home, place to have been heavily favoured on the scorecards, but actually it worked out the other way. It worked out that Triple G actually got rounds where I don't see him getting rounds. There you can see the hug and the respect to the two fighters at the end. I've also got the punch stats, so you can see overall 10 extra punches from Canelo, but look at the power punches, double that the amount of Triple G, and a nice new sculpted belt from the WBC, as they always do. And there you have that scorecard: 116, 112, 115, 113, 115, 113. I mean, that's no way reflective of the fight, because I saw that as, way bigger in terms of a scorecard to Canelo. And that lines up the rematch potentially with Bivol for Canelo. But Bivol, of course, has got to go through Zerdo Ramirez. But I'd be interested to hear your take on the scorecard, because quite often you and I have a difference of opinion with scorecards.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, I mean, look, with regards to the fight, I said it was more of a thinking man's fight than what I expected it to be. I did expect it to be a bit more action, but they were very strategical. I guess they both were wary of the other person. Now, with regards to, I think the fact that Canelo, he gassed quite badly, or he wasn't even working that hard, that high of a pace. So it was really surprising that he's actually was his sort of gas tank seemed to sort of deplete as highly as it did. He hasn't, even in his other fights against like Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders, Smith, even though obviously he's still working at his own pace, but he went 12 rounds comfortably. It's only been in the last two whereby he's looked a lot more jaded and like a bit more slow and less energy. So I definitely think he's deserved a break. But in regards to the fight, I think I did predict a knockout, so you got me on that one. I predicted it based on the fact that I thought there would be more in the fight. I thought there would be more openings, but you kind of saw Triple G's whole game plan, especially in the first half of the fight, was to tuck up and almost not give anything away. Kept his arms in close pretty much all the time. Every time, even he had openings for shots with the jab or even the right hand, he was reluctant to throw it. I guess possibly thinking that Canelo's speed is going to catch him on the way back, carrying these extra 8 pounds that he's never had to carry in a fight before. I don't think he was too confident about that, quite frankly. So, he pretty much negated all of Canelo's work to survive the fight more than to win it. That's kind of what it looked like. But he did, he picked it up a bit towards the later rounds when he saw that he still had more in the gas tank than what Canelo had. But Canelo is still very good defensively, and obviously he's still got a good 1 or 2 shots in him per round, even with zero energy. So even at those times, like Triple G was cautious to let the right hand go. It was all left hand heavy, or tying up just on the inside. So it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't the greatest of fights. Their second fight was probably the best of the three. But Triple G sells on to fight another day, to be totally honest.
Absolutely.
Now,
I mean, the question.
Do you want to talk about scorecards, or do you want to go to comments? Because I'll talk about scorecards quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, funny enough, right? I had the exact same scorecard as David Sutherland minus the 10th round. I think it was it was the 8th. No, it was the 9th round, I think. No, it was the 10th.
So you had it 116, 112.
I had it 116, 112. I gave Golovkin the first round. He controlled pretty much, he controlled the pace, the tempo, and he controlled the center of the ring in the first round. Canelo didn't really hit anything flush and didn't land anything significant. Neither did Golovkin, but his jab was connecting better than anything that Canelo was throwing in that round for me. And like I said, he controlled the tempo and controlled the middle of the ring. So I gave him that, but there was very little activity. Then I gave Canelo the next 7 rounds. And then so up till round 8. Then I gave Golovkin round 9. So I had it 7-2 after 9. Gave Canelo the 10th. And then I gave Golovkin the 11th and the 12th. I thought he won the championship rounds. So that's how I ended up having the fight 116, 112. But there were a couple swing rounds in there, so they could easily have gone back to Canelo. Like the 12th and the 1st could have gone his way as well. And I wouldn't really have argued with anyone. But that's just how I happen to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that first round was a swing round. You could easily just say, look, you know, to me, Triple G lands more, but then none of them are hard punches. He uses that soft tap jab to just sort of find range without anything coming behind it. Whereas Canelo, when he hits with bad intentions and then more powerful shots. So you could, you know, easily have swung that round across to Canelo on the basis that his shots were more solid. Interesting comments, guys. Thank you very much. Sir Alex Ferguson says Canelo needs to take a break. The man's been fighting non-stop for a few years. Yeah, I mean, you know, look, there's definitely been a decline to me in the last few fights. I see the work rate going down. I see the accuracy going down. You know, whereas before, you know, it was a far more accurate boxer. He tends to sort of throw punches and miss, and I'm not sure if that's just bad timing or if it's actually deliberate. Because sometimes you can throw punches knowing, well, I'm just going to show this as a way to trap somebody into doing something, trying to make them make a move, and then countering from there. But some of the things that we've seen from Canelo in the past, you know, the check hooks that he was so good at, the slip counters, you know, we're just not seeing those at the moment. Skyliner, the editor, Canelo has lost his finesse. I agree with that one.
Yeah, give it that. But yeah, he needs a break. I've got no complaints. I don't think he'll be back until September next year. And then when he does come back, funnily enough, I think he might end up taking a quote unquote tune-up. Because
I mean, when we talk about work rate, this stat came out yesterday on Twitter, and I was like, whoa, that is some record.
Yeah.
So you know, look, he's fought all the best. You know, it's interesting the war of words between himself and David Benavidez. I know you and Danny from Fight Fan TV both gave your views on the Benavidez fight yesterday on Monday Night Smoke, which I thought was a great conversation to be had. I haven't seen Danny today. I know he's just getting ready for his wedding this weekend. So he's probably in the last stages of that preparation. But that would have been a great conversation to sort of have, and maybe we'll have that another time. Why is Bear Man hating on Canelo? We ain't hating, Cameron. We are actually praising him.
No, he might be talking in general.
Yeah, we're just saying, you know, look, this is the guy who has been the most active of any champion. And as a result, you know, we've seen a decline in some of his later fights, which is to be expected, bearing in mind the amount of time he's fighting, the weights at which he's fighting, you know, the hard work which he has to go through, the caliber of opposition that he's fighting. So, you know, look, we salute Canelo. You know, he deserves his flowers. You know, he well and truly won this last fight. But we just see certain things which we point out. But it's not hate. It's not hate, my brother. It's not hate at all.
Like I said, I don't think he's referring to us. I think he's asking in general based on everything from everywhere else. because even yesterday there was a lot of people that wasn't really. I think when ultimately it's the same as the hate that AJ gets. When you're the cash cow, when you're the guy of the division, like you get scrutinized the most, you get criticized the most. It comes with the territory. Like no one gets on the back of the underdog. They always, want to be on the back of the guy that's on top to bring them down, to bring up someone else to then do the same thing. Like a Ferris wheel, this is how it works.
Yes, sir. So let's move on, shall we? On the undercard to that fight, was Bam Rodriguez, the new superstar. He was taking on Gonzalez in what was a very entertaining fight, more entertaining to me than the main event. A fight that, to all intents and purposes, was not a coming out party for Bam Rodriguez, because this guy Gonzalez gave him hell. Do you want to go on this one?
Yeah, I'll start with this one.
So we've got a minute of action. Go ahead.
All right. So the one thing I liked about this fight in particular was every time Bam tried to get on the inside and use his angles against Gonzalez, Gonzalez would turn with him to prevent him from getting the full extent of the angle, the same as he was getting against Rongvisai and Quadras and previous opponents. Every time in the first couple rounds, funny enough, I saw the work that Gonzalez was doing. I was still crediting Bam with more of the rounds than I think some other people were, but Bam was popping the jab. Every time he was popping the jab or the right hand and the left hand, Rodriguez would strategically aim for the body. He would hit him in the body. He wasn't going for any headshots. He was strategically placing body shots, thinking that when Bam's extending his wrist, he might be breathing in at that time to push the punch out. So by hitting him at that point, you get maximum impact. And he kept doing that throughout the first round. And obviously, Bam managed to wise up to it pretty quickly. But he definitely didn't want to take those consistently. Several times you saw him back off a little bit, take a bit of a deep breath. He was not liking that work. But overall, with regards to the performance, I thought it was still a great performance. He was in there against a young, hungry, fresh guy like himself. He may have had 4 losses previously, but he was a 25-year-old. He should have really beat Cal Yafai. He should have got the decision. So he should have already been a world champion, to be honest. Cal did get a gift decision in that fight. And ultimately, Bam had to work for his dinner. But he showed the class. He's definitely my fighter of the year. 3 fights, 3 victories, 1 knockout. But he's taking on better opponents than everyone else has, and he still might potentially fight again in December, which would be crazy at this point. But you never know. But one thing I did like about his work is he was very. When he was almost taking shots, he has this way of just getting his hand up in time to take a shot before it lands. Even though sometimes his hand was down by his stomach, but it manages to catch up to the shot, to the head just before the shot connects. And he's got a very good timing with that. And his inside work, he can fight on the inside, he can fight on the outside, he can fight in the mid range. Like the kid he can do it all. So provided he just keeps working, doesn't rest on his laurels, and I think a fight like this will stop him from resting on his laurels, because if he thought he might have had a slightly easier time just off talent and then didn't actually prepare tactics for this fight, he's gonna know, okay, anyone at any time can take you out, so you've got to stay sharp. And he just seems like such a grounded kid. To me, he's like in the mold of a Devin Haney and the mold of a Shakur Stevenson, whereby they're not trying to be anyone on anyone's win column. So they're gonna keep putting in that work to make sure that for you to beat them, it's gonna be a hell of a night for you. And I like that dedication that these younger generations are showing. They could teach a lot to some of the older guys at this point. But that's my opinions on the fight.
Yeah. So as I said, I mean, very, very entertaining fight. For me, was the sort of most entertaining fight. And again, interesting scorecards. 118, 109, 117, 110, and Patricia Morse Jarman had it 114, 113.
Mm.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna go with that last card. I think it was more close than the other two cards, because I gave Gonzalez a hell of a lot of early rounds. I thought he just outworked Bam. You know, Bam was getting perhaps the more attractive shots, but the kid was way out punching him. You know, I wonder if I can pull up some CompuStat data, but you know, for certain rounds, there's no doubt in my mind that Gonzalez clearly outscores Bam by punch volume. And as you said, you know, those underneath punches made this fight very interesting, because he was, you know, when you aim for the head, you can say you're not scoring, but when you're aiming at the body and you're constantly hitting that body because it ain't going anywhere, you know, and he was hitting it on a regular. I saw this as a much closer fight than 118, 109 or 117, 10. You know, I probably would have gone 115, 112, 116, 112, but nothing more than that at the most.
Well,
This was
118, 109 definitely is wrong. I would say that. But the thing is, Gonzalez threw a lot of punches that did miss. Like, so Bam did slip and slide a lot of punches, and I think they noticed that every time he would return fire, his punches seemed to land and seemed to hit. So I think that's what they took away. I mean, with regards to scorecards, I had it 116, 111. So I had it 8 rounds to 4. Obviously, you take away a point for the knockdown as well. So um highly competitive, but and there again, there may have been 1 or 2 rounds in there that you might say you could have swung potentially the other way. But yeah, I definitely think that the BAM had 8 rounds, eight clean rounds in there for my take anyway.
Just seeing if I can find anything.
Probably won't, to be honest.
Yeah, everything's on the Rungvisai fight. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. But a very entertaining fight, guys. If you haven't seen that fight, go have a look at the highlights, because you'll see a lot of good action. Bam with his typical pivoting. You know, he comes on late in the fight and really starts to take over. And I think wins it through the championship rounds, because when Israel Gonzalez slows down, Bam steps up his rate and just doesn't stop. So I was pleased to see that. You know, that shows what a real champion's about, because a real champion will go through those last rounds and turns it on in the same way Usyk did against Joshua. You know, so very good performance, and I look forward to seeing where he goes next.
Good stuff. Any other fights on that one you want to talk about?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So the next fight I want to talk from that card was Ammo Williams against Kieran Conway. Again, a kind of entertaining fight, a 10-round fight, where I think it was low on quality but high on entertainment value, because Ammo Williams to me is not a stylish or very good technical boxer. He throws really bad lead hooks, lead uppercuts, but in doing so, he's got a lot of power. And as you can see there, you know, he dropped Kieran Conway, who's been on the up recently. And this represented quite a good step for Ammo Williams. But he just doesn't look attractive in terms of boxing capabilities. You know, he doesn't throw a nice jab. He doesn't work double jabs. He often throws punches out of range. But when he does hit, he hits with venom, and he hits with, you know, a lot of destructive power. So, you know, he was able to break up Conway. He was able to disrupt Conway, because I think Conway, to me, is a better boxer. You know, more traditional. But what Williams wasn't able to do that Conway does in terms of, you know, stylish boxing, he overcame that with raw ruggedness. You know, just the ability to throw punches in between a punch and hit a man and hurt him. You know, there was a lot of tie-ups. There's a lot of unnecessary clinching. So overall, not the prettiest, but a very entertaining fight. And if you didn't see that one, I would say it's worth a highlight watch.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Conway is the more complete boxer of the two. Amo's the puncher, but the issue with Amo is a very similar issue to like Deontay Wilder, or even sometimes maybe Denzel Bentley. Like there's a lot of power, but when you can't sell it upright, or when you can't get to your target to execute it properly, you end up coming a bit stuck. And Amo, like having someone who had a naturally bigger size than him, which I think is probably the first time he's actually faced that, even though Kieran Conway came up for 154, like he clearly outweighed Amo in the night. He looked almost twice his size in the ring. So having someone that had a slight height on you, probably had the reach advantage as well, it looked like. Someone that had the boxing fundamentals that were required just to offset you and to be able to sort of move just before you're setting your feet to throw your shots the majority of the time, offsetting you with the jab, like when you're leaping in to shoot your backhand and he's just popping the jab in the face, like just knocking you off balance. That's not something Amos had to deal with. So I feel like it was a good test for him. It'll probably take a little bit of time out the ring, not a huge amount, but a little bit, just because obviously his nose got a bit busted up. He took a bit more damage than I think he was expecting. I think he started falling in love with his power over the last couple fights, based on how he's been getting people out. Whereas before that, he was kind of getting more rounds than he had been previously. So I think it was a good fight for him. He did well by constantly keeping his foot on the outside, and his southpaw stance. So that's how he was able to get off as much work as he did. But he just didn't have any answer for the clinches, or the outside game. All of his success came from that mid range. Because when he was on the inside, he got held, he got tied up and couldn't move. On the outside, he was getting outputted and out jabbed. So he just got to I guess he just got to sharpen up on the fundamentals, but this was definitely the fight he needed to progress his learning, provided he takes it on board and carries on moving through through his career.
Absolutely. So that leaves me with one more fight from that card. As you can tell, I was fully invested in this card. I gotta say, this card was well worth it. The last fight I want to talk about was Ali Akhmadov against Gabe Rosado. Obviously, Rosado is battle worn now. Absolutely, completely battle worn. But Akhmadov, coming back from a loss, on the comeback trail, looked really good. I got to take my hat off, and I say, well done to the kid. He gave Rosado the work. Rosado done what Rosado done. He kept himself in the fight for the whole time. He dished out punishment, because that's one thing that you never get with Rosado, is a guy who stands up and just becomes a pincushion. He always throws back. He always gives you a hard time. He's in a fight. He's never just there to be the foil to your boxing. He's gonna give you hell, and he did give Akhmadov work, but Akhmadov was just far too good for Rosado. He boxed beautifully, and I'm impressed with the kid. As I said, coming off of a loss, and now being on the comeback trail, I gotta say, I think he could potentially upset some in the rankings above him. Anyone who takes him on, expect danger. He's a very good fighter. Very impressed by that performance.
Yeah, it was a good performance. I haven't got really much to add to that. He was, um, I mean, Gabe sort of kept him honest and made him have to work, but Gabe wanted a tear up so that he could try and time and catch him in between shots. And Akhmadov learned his lesson clearly from the Gongora fight, where if what you're doing is working, there's no need to deviate. So kept him on the outside of the jab, just kept him, just kept popping his head back, shooting that backhand, angling off, setting back, resetting, making Gabe have to keep coming forward. Whereas Gabe Rosado prefers to be more of a bit of a counter puncher or throw with you as opposed to being the one that initiates action. And that was just the game plan that ultimately won the day for him.
Mm.
Probably would be better off sticking around the 160 division if he's gonna carry on, because he seems to do better against the 160 guys than the 168s. But I'm not going to tell a man to retire. He'll still get paydays. I just don't know if he really wants to carry on, or if he really wants to be that quote unquote gatekeeper. That's down to him. If he does, then cool.
I mean,
Outside,
he is the equivalent of Derek Chisora, isn't he? You
yeah,
know, he could beat any fighter from rank 15 downwards. Um, but he's just that guy that can give anybody a really bad night if they don't come ready.
agreed. Quick shout out to Mark Castro, aka Musk Jr. and Diego Pacheco, because they both had great knockouts over the weekend as well. Mark Castro especially, a very very vicious uppercut knockout. Um, yeah, and then obviously Pacheco, good 168 pounder, definitely going to go up to 175 within the next 3 or 4 years. Probably might even end up moving past that as well. 21 years old, 16, what is he, 16-0 now, with I think it's 12 or 13 knockouts. So yeah, Eddie's got a nice little roster of youngsters coming through.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Just backtracking a little bit, Jam Down made a comment about Bam. That was a great fight for Bam. It was a wake-up call if he needed to be reminded that there are hungry dogs out there. I remember thinking that Bam looked a bit jaded during the fight. Absolutely. He also then goes on to say, what do you guys make of that young batch of US fighters that Eddie signed for Matchroom USA? Aside from Diego Pacheco, who you just mentioned, I can't see any of the rest of them really doing anything on the world stage, to be honest. Well, I mean, Eddie's doing a great job. Eddie is going out there and signing some talent. Obviously, when you look at what he signed in terms of volume, he's got guys in pretty much most of the major categories of weight. He's got them into good prime positions, top 10 ranks. I think it's, good work by Eddie. I don't think Diego Pacheco is the only one from the US crop that will be a success. I think he's got others, but time will tell. What's your thoughts, Space?
Pacheco and Castro, I think, will do something. They'll get maneuvered correctly to be able to, get to world level. I reckon. I don't think he'll rush them. Ray Ford, I think he's still got something. He's still got something with Ray Ford as well. I mean, there's a couple others that will be decent level fighters. They won't set the world alight, but they'll be good. They'll either be good opponents or they'll be in good fights. But I think those are probably the three that I would say, yeah, these are the ones to kind of to keep your eye on in terms of the young crop that he brought through. Obviously, he didn't get the people like Shushu Carrington and Keyshawn Davis and those guys. If he had got any of those as well, then the stable would have been, yeah, that would have been lit. But he's got a decent enough crowd there. So I reckon those are the three that I would say have got the most potential to do something. And then again, you got someone like Ammo, he may not set the world alight, but he's gonna be an entertaining fights, and it's that's gonna be
Cool, excellent. Robert is talking about this weekend's fight, so we'll address that in a short sec. Robert, Jam Down continues that Castro is too big for his body to make it as a world champ, unfortunately. But when you can punch like he can, look, it doesn't matter what your head sizes look like. Watch about my hand size. That's a bit more important. So yeah, be interesting. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes last week's action. That's taken up a fair while. Obviously, a lot of boxing took place this weekend gone, and we have another bumper weekend upcoming. So without further delay, let's get in amongst what we got to see this weekend coming up. You're going to, which card are you going to?
Joyce Parker.
Okay, so you're going to Joyce Parker, who on the same card you will be seeing Amanda Serrano against Mahfoud. And you will also be seeing Ikao Esserman against Antwi Raven Chapman, is it?
Yep, against Jorgelina Guanini.
And the other two cards, guys, I'm not too sure about Magnesi and Heaney. I've heard of Heaney, but I can't say.
Anthony Kakache, so you should remember him from.
Yes, yeah. That's right. Yeah, how can I forget him? So yeah, I mean, talk to us about what your feelings about this card. So I see Mark Heffron in the middle as well. So what's your thoughts on the card and the two main events?
My thoughts on the card is that I actually think it's a very good card. I'm just not happy with maybe some of the placements of some of the fights. I've got the fight list. I've got the times that the ring walks are supposed to take place. And yet again, you got Frank Warren putting too many fights on the card. So I wouldn't be surprised if that main event doesn't start until like 11:30. Because I remember when I went to Arthur Yard 2, they didn't get in the ring till I think 11:45. Just because Frank Warren had way too many cards on the event. It's a shit. Like, I'm looking, obviously my first fight that I'll be looking forward to there is Raven Chapman against Jorgelina Guanini. Shout out to Raven, she's the reason I've got tickets at all. But with regards, I mean, she's at the start of the event, so she's at 6 o'clock, which is a lot earlier than I wanted to get to the arena, but I will be there because I know that's actually going to be a very fun fight, and I'm expecting Raven to be the first of the British girls that actually stops Guanini. She's got some serious power compared to some of the others. I'm looking forward to Magnesi versus Kakache. I just think that fight's going to be quite an action-packed fight. Esserman versus Antwi could be a bit anticlimactic, but because it's British Commonwealth and the IBF European welterweight titles, I'm definitely keen to see how that one shapes up. Heaney versus Flatley, I'm not too interested in. Mark Heffron, he's there in nothing more than a showcase fight, so it's not going to be any great shakes. I expect that to be over within 2 rounds. And then Amanda Serrano against Sarah Mahfoud. I'm quietly looking forward to that one. I know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to it anyway.
Cool. So let's talk about the main event then. Joe Joyce against Joseph Parker. What's your feelings? How does that go? What are the keys to success?
Break down fights that have already happened. So all I will say is that I expect this fight to actually be a lot more fun and action-packed than a lot of people may be predicting.
So I'm sitting on the fence on this one. I mean, I've been watching the warm-up videos, which have been quite entertaining on BT Sport. I went in my local PC repair shop just literally across the road from me yesterday, or last week rather, and I apparently just missed Joe Joyce because he lives just down the road from me in Banstead. Look, I've been very impressed seeing Joe Joyce working out. He's been working with Johnny Fisher, Carlos Takam, obviously. Joseph Parker is in the Andy Lee camp with Tyson Fury and his team. It's gonna be very, very interesting. Joe Joyce is warming more and more on me though. I definitely am feeling more and more like he's a big problem. And this is to me the come out fight, because if he does what I think he could do against Parker, then it's hedge your bets now, because you could be looking at the next great thing in the heavyweight division. That's quite a claim.
That's a big claim from you.
But the reason I say that is because I don't see Usyk sticking around for too long, and I don't see Tyson Fury sticking around for too long. And when I look at the next level of the next set of guys, yeah, if I'm gonna pick someone right now, my sneaky bet is Joe Joyce.
Okay.
So as you said, we'll break that one down even further once the fights happen next week. But that's my feeling. This is a very good, entertaining fight. I'm going to be super interested to see how it ends.
Oh, while we've got that up on the screen, keep it up.
Yeah.
I want to just address a comment, if you can actually put it in the overlay for Dreadpool. Right.
Cool.
Okay, so thanks, Base. Yes, don't blink and don't be late this time. Hashtag Team Raven. So for anyone who doesn't know, and I want to clear this up, I was not late. All right. There was in the last time Raven was on the card, she was at York Hall on another Frank Warren show. The event was due to start at 6 o'clock. I got to the event at 6:02 by the time I actually got in and gave my ticket and everything. And at that particular time, Raven's hand was raised at the end so she'd actually had like a first round knockout of her opponent in I think about 1 minute and 19 seconds. Now she wasn't supposed to be on the card that early. 2 fights dropped out and they moved her to the start of the broadcast. I think it was 7 o'clock. I think is the time I got there. So I wasn't late. She was just early.
Okay. U-Man says Joyce gets hit too easy. Yeah, but what are the some effects of when you hit him? He hits you back more. He hits you back harder. So I appreciate that he gets hit. But when you've got the ability to continually hit people more than they hit you and hit them harder than they hit you, guess what happens? You lose.
Well, you know what? You say that, but on this occasion, because let's be real, apart from Daniel Dubois, who telegraphs a lot, Joyce hasn't actually been in there with anyone that you would consider a big puncher. Now, Joseph Parker isn't the biggest, but he is a big enough puncher. He's faster. So if Joyce gets caught in between them shots, that could be a lot more dangerous for him than, getting hit flush by, say, like Daniel Dubois, but seeing the punch coming and riding with it. So yeah, I think this will be a lot more of a dangerous fight in terms of not being defensively responsible, because this isn't a Christian Hammer or a Michael Varlish and those sort of guys. This is a guy that is actually at world level.
Yeah.
So he definitely needs to be careful.
For sure. So that's that one. Also on Saturday night, because of changes of fixtures, we have. Let's find it. Maxie Hughes against Kid Galahad, which was originally meant to be Lara against Wood.
But yeah, that was just undercard fight initially.
Yeah. So Lara Wood got cancelled. Hughes Galahad becomes the main event. But it looks like a not bad card. When we consider that Hannah Rankin against Terry Harper, I think that's a very exciting fight. Jonathan Dakers against Dominic Akinlade, that looks a decent fight.
I don't think Diakis is fighting Akinlade, is he? Oh, he is. Yeah, sorry. My bad. Carry on.
Yeah, so, even though the card has been robbed of its main event, I still think it's a decent enough card. Obviously, you're going to know a lot more about the Rankin Harper situation in terms of historical context and where it stands now. The Hughes Galahad fight looks hugely entertaining to me. I think Maxie Hughes has been talked a lot in glowing terms by a lot of people. Galahad, as we know, he's been to the mountaintop. He's won world title. He's lost world title. He's obviously looking to re-establish himself. This is a very good domestic scrap. One which, in all honesty, is actually quite difficult for me to pick a winner because Galahad has the perhaps the better boxing ability, but Hughes is a dogged, hard-working boxer. He's going to work Galahad. Don't see knockout. Just see it being a real tough battle for the two. There might be something that ends up. Let me just get rid of this.
No, it's like leave him. You can leave him.
Yeah, so it might come down to cuts, So yeah, gonna be an interesting. What's your thoughts?
Well, do you know what? All right, controversial for me anyway. I'm actually a lot more impressed with the Frank Warren card. That being said, it is a pay-per-view card, so I guess yes, it should be. But even with the main event, I do think the Frank Warren card was better. What I will say is Maxie Hughes and Galahad. I think that's actually going to be a pretty ugly fight, to be honest, just because I don't think their styles are going to gel that well. And you got one that's coming up from 126 to 135, and one that's coming up from 130 to 135. So, I think it's Hughes's first or second fight there, whereas obviously Galahad has never fought there before. So that could be an issue with weight, could be an issue with sort of gas tanks, or it could just be an ugly fight overall. Rankin and Harper, I expect, will be a fun fight, but I don't expect it to be what's the word I'm looking for? I don't expect there to be any surprises. I don't expect it to be like a highly engaging or like a highly sort of a highly tense, emotional fight. I just think it will be like a fun fight to watch. Not giving away any obviously answers to that. Diakis and Akinlade, I don't know Akinlade, so I can't give any comments. I know Rhiannon Dixon will be on there, but she's I don't think she'll be fighting anyone particularly great either. And then just Cyrus Patterson, I think, is on the card as well. But it doesn't show who's fighting who, so it's hard to really say. But I'll watch it the following day, maybe after I come back from Manchester, or I might have to watch it on Monday. Who knows? I may not even get a chance to watch it at the time, but we'll see.
We've also got Chef Clark on that bill as well.
Okay, a little bit of cruiserweight action.
Yeah. There's a couple of TBAs. Rhiannon Dixon has a TBA.
Yeah.
Rhiannon. So she's got a TBA. I know how much you hate those TBA guys.
I mean, no, TBA, I respect it. Get your money. All right. TBA is the best paid boxer in the world.
So you man says, "What's on the Warren card?" There's enough. There's enough. I mean, it's all of that, my friend. Fill your boots. Fill your boots. And a bag of chips. So let's get back to the action. Then after that card, we go across the water, and we have. It's actually a Friday night fight, so I should have mentioned it first. Shakur Stevenson against Robson Conceição. We all love a bit of Shakur Stevenson. It's interesting. Again, me being a stato and getting all kind of facts and figures getting out there, came up with this one.
Nice.
That's amazing. I mean, obviously, a lot of them are in his early fights. But, you know, that's just a ridiculous punch output compared to your opponents. And you look at, and you know why, because he's just such a good boxer, you know, technically sound, doesn't get hit very well, very elusive, languid style, punches in volume, very accurate, very good slip and counter hitter. You know, the kid is just superlative. You know, in the pound for pound rankings, it's funny that, you know, he doesn't get talked about very often. You know, we often get a conversation about why isn't Devin Haney in there, but this is the kid who actually I feel will probably be nearer the top of that tree at some point in time than even potentially Tank Davis. As anybody knows, I love Tank Davis, but I really believe that Shakur Stevenson is the real deal and willing in time ascend to become one of the greatest in the sport as we know it. So yeah, that's the big fight for Friday night coming from the States. That kind of leads me to think what's big coming from the States on a Saturday night.
I don't think there's anything on Saturday.
I don't think there is. I mean, obviously there's loads of boxing coming on from America, but nothing of note. Just having a quick scan. Nope, nothing of note. So that's our business done for the weekend upcoming. Hopefully, guys, you've been well entertained by our breakdown of last weekend's plethora of fights. You know, we've given you lots to look at if you haven't already seen them. Again, stacked cards this weekend. Go out, enjoy yourself. Hopefully everything's back to normal. Unfortunately, football's off. We've got international rubbish, so you know, we have to seek our pleasures elsewhere. Anything you got to tell us about?
No, this week might be a slightly sparse one in terms of my own footage. Actually, while I'm here, and salute to my show has just turned up. In the chat, let me know, right? So there's a lot of boxing on, as we just see. For most of you, obviously see Basis Picks videos. Do you think I should do a two-parter this week? Release one part tomorrow, and then just the other part on Friday, ready to go? Or should I just see if I get it recorded, do it all in one, and then drop that on Friday and try and find, or even drop it tomorrow, because I may not even have time to do videos and stuff while I'm in Manny. So in the chat, just let me know which one you would prefer, and I'll see if I can get it done. Outside of that, I don't have much else going on. I'm gonna be out and about, moving and shaking, and you know, other sort of commitments outside of the boxing world. But hey, it's pretty much done.
those of you who are chasing up where Maestro was in Las Vegas over the weekend. So I'm sure that he was unable to do his Sunday show because of his location. Hope you're well, Maestro. Teacher salute. Hope you enjoyed the action in Vegas, my friend, as we've done a full breakdown of all the action. I thought it was a very good card. If you got a chance, just drop us a quick note what you think of the card as a whole, because I was very impressed by Ali Akhmadov, Bam Rodriguez, and Israel Gonzalez. I thought they fought a great fight. Amma Williams, although it was technically poor, it was a very entertaining fight nonetheless. And of course, Triple G, you know, not the greatest of fights, but still entertaining to a degree. So yeah, that's it. Maestro agrees. Great performances by the A sides. Yeah. So guys, I believe that's it for today. You've got the ticker tape down below. If you don't already follow, get onto Base's YouTube channel, his Insta, his Twitter. Go follow his uploaded videos coming out, as he says, towards the end of the week. Jam Down is giving you a response to your question, Base.
I saw that. I'll watch
Great.
that on demand.
And as Maestro says, guys, yes, please smash the like button while you can. It's been wonderful, as always, getting together with you guys. Great interaction between you guys and us. Look forward to the next one. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you later.
Take care, guys.